we were talking about the dynamic between Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Donald Trump, as they are in the White House, and they get into what I took it to be an impromptu argument, and that Nancy Pelosi was, I think, genuinely not interested in getting into a public argument with Trump, but she seemed to be perfectly prepared to do so. I think she was being sincere in saying, look, this is stuff that we should be talking about in private, because we're not going to sit here and let you stipulate fake facts with us standing right here. Like, I'm compelled to challenge you. And frankly, I would rather not do that because we have some negotiations to do, and this is going to poison the well. And I suspect that it did a little bit. My understanding is Donald Trump was quite mad about that. To watch Chuck Schumer during this was also fascinating to me. He did get the president to basically say, I'm proud of shutting down the government, which, like you say, has put the Republicans in a very uncomfortable place. But to watch Chuck Schumer avoid eye contact with Donald Trump, you got a sense of this guy, of how conflict averse he is. And I raise this because I want to talk about Mike Pence, and I want to talk about some of what's happening legislatively. But we have two questions about leadership in the House and the Senate in terms of Democrats. Nancy Pelosi has, I think, edified her position. She made a concession to some of those people who were talking about challenging her leadership, and that concession, I think, is one that we all sort of, feel pretty comfortable with, which is this idea. She said that the caucus, she will bring up a vote for the caucus where there is a 3-term limit for leadership members of the House, and they can only stay there with a 2/3 vote from the caucus. Now, she said maybe the caucus won't adopt it, but I'll abide by it regardless. Not clear what's going to happen with committees. I think she's locked that stuff up, and simultaneously gave progressives a victory on the proposed change in the rules that you can only raise taxes on the 80% of the population with a 2/3 vote. That's gone, and now PAYGO next. So we have that on one side, right, Heather? On the other, Chuck Schumer's there, and Claire McCaskill gave away the game. It seems, in an interview where she basically said, the great thing about Chuck as a leader is he never asked me to vote against, in a way that I didn't want to. And isn't that what a leader is supposed to do? Like, hey, we need you on this one. I know you feel like taking this vote might hurt you, but we need you, and so you got to do it. I mean, what kind of leader is not asking anything of the members of his caucus?
That's right. And, that just shows the difference between Schumer and Pelosi, who has a very keen insight into every one of her members and understands what they need, what they can do, how far they can be asked to go. She knows that there are times when you can put pressure and other times when you got to let off. And she's actively engaged in counting votes and ensuring that she, can get things passed or stop bad things from happening. That's what a leader is supposed to do. That's the job. Yep. And I don't honestly know what Chuck Schumer's, how he sees his job, because there's no strategic vision there. There's no idea, I've never heard, that he sits down and they map out a plan on how to stop the, Republicans from doing something, or that they work together to kind of, play some kind of good cop, bad cop. I mean, there's no strategy in what he does. It's just basically, we'll deal with whatever comes up as it happens, and I sure hope they all do the right thing. Whatever that would do, what they need to do, I guess, is his vision. In other words, they're leaderless. And it really shows, look, he's putting Joe Manchin from West Virginia, on the Energy Committee. Now, I get that Manchin wants to be on there, and it may be good for him, but the guy just got reelected. He does not need to be given anything. He's got 6 long years ahead of him. He'll be fine. And the idea that they would do that in this 2 years, when there's all this stuff at stake, when everybody is getting ready for the 2020 campaign, not to mention the fact that, climate change is a pretty big deal, and we don't really need to the Democrats need to, pull themselves away from this, coal, the coal hostage taking that they sort of have to live with Manchin. Why? There's nothing he could give Manchin, to replace his, his belief that he needs to be on the Energy Committee. I mean, that's it's weakness. It's just plain weakness. And the fact that we're sitting here concentrating constantly on Pelosi and how much of a drag she is on the party and all of that, and letting Chuck just, he won by acclamation. They didn't even hold a vote. They didn't go, yeah, Chuck, you're fine. Of course he's fine.
Well, of course he's fine because he's not asking. He's not asking anything of anybody. And the idea that the arguably, right, the most relevant position in terms of the Democrats fighting climate change, at least in the Senate, but, arguably legislatively, the most relevant position is now given to a guy in the pocket of the coal industry.
I know.
Is, dismal for the planet. And it seems to me to be very contrary to the interests of the Democratic Party. And I don't care if he couldn't get the notion that Chuck Schumer could not communicate this or leverage this to those other senators who needed to give up their position to come and chair to be the senior on this committee. I'm sorry. That's a failure of leadership. That's definitionally a failure of leadership. Something needed to be done. He could not get it done. And of course, you understand why there's no insurrection against him, because he doesn't ask anything of anybody. He comes in there and he's just Santa Claus, but gets nothing done. And so it's a real problem. All right, look, Heather, we got to take a break. If you'll join me in the next hour, we're going to talk about these rumors about Mike Pence, what's going on with John Kelly. Will the president ever find a chief of staff? And then, of course, later in the show, we'll start talking about the incredible criminality surrounding this president. We got to take a quick break. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio.